A couple of days ago, a sudden, quiet urge started tugging at me. It wasn't a loud or demanding thought, but it was persistent, like a slow drip of water on stone. I wanted to go back. I wanted to visit the places I used to live, the old neighborhoods that once held the weight of my younger self. It had been years, maybe even a decade, since I last stood on those street corners, and I felt a strange necessity to see what was left of the person I used to be. There wasn't really a grand or dramatic reason for this whim. I guess life in the city has just been moving far too fast. Lately everything feels blurred and overexposed, like looking out a high-speed train window at midnight. I felt like a kite with a snapped string, drifting higher and higher into a cold blue void, just looking for a familiar roof, a sturdy chimney, or a steady hand to anchor myself back to the earth. I needed to know if the ground I once walked on was still solid. It happened to be raining that day, not a heavy storm, but that kind of thin, misty rain that clings to your eyelashes and makes the entire world look like a faded, silver screen photograph. I headed out without an umbrella, letting the cool, damp air touch my face. I wanted to feel the weather. I walked through those familiar alleys, Nanjing Street, Zhongshan Road, the narrow lanes of Jingmai over and over again. I was trying to match the vivid blueprints in my memory with the gray reality shifting in front of me. But to be honest, the experience was heartbreaking. It was like trying to read a letter that had been left out in the sun until the ink faded to nothing. The little corner store where I used to buy lukewarm coffee and cheap notebooks? Gone. In its place stood a cold, glass-fronted office building, all sharp angles and mirrored surfaces, looking like it belonged to a different, much more indifferent century. The old row of low-slung houses I used to pass every single morning on my way to the station, completely leveled to the ground. There was no more peeling green paint, no more tangled jasmine vines, no more laundry hanging from rusty balconies. Just cold steel fences, heaps of wet mud, and those bright, aggressive yellow demolition signs that seemed to scream that the past was no longer welcome here. I stood there in the rain, looking at that empty lot, feeling completely lost. It's a terrifyingly hollow feeling when the physical evidence of your past is simply erased, as if someone had taken an eraser to the map of your life. Where did it all go? I wondered. The people who once shared those thin walls, the loud morning laughter of children, the muffled late-night arguments of neighbors, the secret tears shed in rooms that no longer exist. All those warm, bustling, messy days. It feels like in the blink of an eye, everyone scattered like autumn leaves in a gale, and even the heavy stones of the buildings vanished into thin air. That's when it hit me. Standing there with the rain soaking through my coat. In this vast expanse of space and time, we aren't settlers or owners. We are just travelers, or rather, ghosts sin waiting, brushing shoulders with these places and people by pure, chaotic chance. A connection with a person might only last a second in the grand scheme of the universe. A connection with a house? It's just a blink of an eye to the stars. We hold on so tight to our titles, our deeds, our homes, and our loves, convinced that they are forever, that they define the very core of who we are. But looking back at those ruins, I realized those things are just shadows of a dream. They are reflections on the surface of a river. Once the light changes or the wind picks up, they drift away, and no matter how fast you run or how hard you reach, you can never quite catch them again. They belong to the silence now. For a very long time, I lived with this constant, heavy anxiety that I needed to own things to be safe. I used to think that a bigger apartment, a faster car, a growing bank account, or a collection of impressive titles was what it meant to be settled. I believe stability was something material, something you could buy, bolt down to the floor, and keep forever. I thought that by building a fortress of possessions, I could somehow protect myself from the relentless flow of time. But standing in front of those ruins, watching the raindrops disappear into the dark, indifferent dirt where my home used to be, I finally saw the truth. We are all just like hermit crabs, living by the shore of a vast, unyielding ocean. We spend our entire lives, from the first light of dawn till the deepest shadows of dusk, frantically searching for a larger, stronger, more respectable shell. We compete for them. We stress over them. We wear our bodies and our spirits out just to maintain them, genuinely believing that these shells are our identity. We convince ourselves that the shell is us. We decorate it, we show it off, and we fear the day we might lose it. But the ocean of time is always rising, and its currents are far stronger than any shell we can find. One day, when we are too tired to walk any further, or when the tide simply gets too high for us to resist, we have to leave the shell behind. We have to give it back to the world, letting it be washed away into the salt and the sand. We come into this life naked, unburdened, and empty-handed, and in the end we return to that same profound emptiness. Even this body of mine, this physical form that breathes, aches, and perceives, is just a borrowed suit. It is a temporary vessel I am inhabiting for a few fleeting decades. To come is a coincidence. To leave is a certainty. Strangely, accepting this didn't make me feel sad or cynical. Instead, it made me feel incredibly light. It took the crushing pressure off my shoulders. If I can't take any of this with me in the end, not the bricks, not the books, not even the skin, then the having doesn't matter as much as the being. So, why am I here? Why do I spend hours every single day at this small desk, tucked away in this quiet, unnoticed corner? Why am I so intensely focused on these notes, on reading these ancient thoughts of people long gone, on organizing the messy, chaotic landscape of my own mind? I think it's because I want my soul to be a little more comfortable during this temporary stay. I want the inside of my shell to be beautiful, even if the shell itself is destined to crumble. I don't show my face to the world because my face is just another part of the shell, a mask that time will eventually claim. I have no desire to join the noisy, frantic crowds outside, chasing after things that are already in the process of decaying. I just want to finish this inward journey, here in this small, sacred space of my own making. Because in the middle of this constant, terrifying flux, only this silence, this peace I find between the lines of my notebook. This spark of understanding that ignites in the dark feels like it truly belongs to me. It is the one thing I don't have to give back to the universe when the sun finally goes down. If life eventually returns to zero, does that make the now meaningless? Some might think so. But I believe the opposite. Precisely because we are destined to say goodbye to everything. Every single heartbeat becomes an act of defiance. Every moment becomes incredibly painfully precious. We often look for miracles in the clouds or in grand gestures, but what is a miracle really? To me, a miracle isn't about winning the lottery or achieving fame. It's not something that happens to you. It's something you notice. Look at this flower sitting on my desk. It started as a tiny seed in the wild, blooming without an audience. That's a miracle. Out of the millions of flowers in the city, I happened to be walking by that exact shop at that exact minute, and I brought it home. That's a miracle. And now, as the world sleeps, it sits here under the warm glow of my lamp. It's blooming petal by petal, exhaling its scent into my room while I work. The fact that its life and my life are intersecting right now, in this silence, that is the real miracle. Our lives are built from these tiny, invisible threads of chance. Every time you stop rushing and truly notice the present, you are witnessing a miracle. When you brush shoulders with a stranger in a crowded subway, and for a split second, you recognize their humanity. When you click on this video, and for a few minutes, our thoughts occupy the same space across thousands of miles. Even here, as I write, I watch the ink hit the paper. I see the thoughts leaving my head and becoming permanent marks. That spark of clarity, that sudden aha moment when a difficult problem finally makes sense. These are the rose miracles of my life. They are small. They are fragile. I can't pack them in a suitcase and keep them forever. But in this moment, they are the most real things I own. They make my life bloom, even if it's just for a second before the wind blows again. On my way back from that empty lot where my old home used to be, I bought a single yellow rose. As I walked down the busy street, watching hundreds of people rush past me with their phones in their hands and their minds in the future, I felt a strange sense of love for them. I thought, we are all just travelers. We are all just carrying our borrowed shells home. Wouldn't it be beautiful if I could share this tiny bit of peace I found today? If I could give each of them a flower to remind them to breathe? I know I can't literally give a rose to every stranger. I can't stop them in their tracks and tell them it's okay to let go of the shell. But I can do it this way. I can share these thoughts. I can offer you these words, this silence, and this quiet inward way of existing. We met here through this screen, a chance encounter in the vast digital ocean. A brief moment where our timelines crossed. Maybe the algorithm brought you here, or maybe you were just searching for a reason to be still. Either way, this moment we are sharing right now is the most beautiful, most precious miracle of my day. It's my way of handing you that yellow rose. I hope you can find that perfect rose in your own life today. Not a rose that lasts forever, but one that is beautiful because it is fleeting. When you're out there tomorrow, brushing shoulders with the world, don't just rush through the motions. Stop for a heartbeat. Look at the flower growing in the cracks of your own heart, and don't be afraid to offer its fragrance to someone else. Well, that's it for today's monologue. My ink is running low, and the night is almost over. I hope we can all hold on to these innocent little miracles, even as the world continues its restless change. Good night, or have a beautiful day.